Alrighty, so hello everybody and welcome to today's webinar on the power of pools and access groups in PoolCar. I'm Sarah Macefield, Solution Consultant here at SmartTrack, and I'll be walking you through how to set up and manage these features to make sure your users are only seeing and booking the vehicles that they should be. So this is a short and sharp 30-minute webinar. So the first 20 minutes I'll be walking you through, and then we'll leave 10 minutes at the end for your questions. So please feel free to drop them in the chat as we go, and the very lovely Jamie and Rachel will be monitoring those. So first up, we're going to start with a confidence poll. So I'd really like to hear how confident do you feel currently to set up pools and access groups? So we've got a poll coming up in the chat. Give you a couple more seconds for that. Great. Thank you, everybody. So what we're going to cover today is what are pools, what are access groups, how to set them both up with some examples and some common mistakes and how to avoid them, and then we'll finish off with some questions. So firstly, a quick overview between the differences, of the differences between pools and access groups. So pools are vehicle-based. They can be location, team, department, or cost centre based, and vehicles are assigned into pools. So please note that location is recommended as the way to group your vehicles in pools, and that's to be able to enable you to use the trip planning version of PoolCar. All right, so next on to access groups. So access groups are user-based. They can be explicit or rule-based, and users are assigned to access groups. So now we've got another quick poll, just asking how many customers currently use access groups. You wouldn't mind just answering that poll, that would be really helpful. So I'm giving you a couple more seconds.
Quite a split.
Yeah, real split. Interesting. Thanks, guys. Alrighty. So in PoolCar, a pool, as I said before, is a way to group vehicles. Now that's usually by location, department or purpose, with location being the recommended. So for example, if you have vehicles at your Auckland and Wellington offices, you might create separate pools for each location. Or if you've got executive only vehicles, you can put them in their own pool too. So pools can be open to the general pool, as in no access groups assigned, or you can manage access through access groups, and we'll get to that shortly. So to create a pool, navigate to the sysadmin main menu, and under Pool Management, select Pools. So click on Create New Pool on the right-hand side of the page, and we complete this Manage Pools page. So we're going to create a new pool called Dunedin. I'm just going to type that into the pool name, and then any description if relevant, any effective from and to dates if relevant, and if there's any specific business hours, key pickup and return instructions, complete those. And sorry, I'm just moving a little bit fast there. So then we do the sort order of assets available, and that's going to determine the order in which the vehicles are offered to your people. And then we've got the next section down, which is the access groups. So at the moment, we don't have an access group for that pool, so I'm not going to select anything. And then we've got the auto reallocation settings as well. So do you want to auto reallocate bookings for this pool? And we're talking here about auto reallocation based on a late return. And then we're going to click on save. And why hasn't that saved? Let's have a little look up the top. So we scroll up the top and we see that it hasn't been saved because we didn't allocate it to a group. Now, in this case, I'm just selecting the all users general pool because we haven't created a Dunedin access group yet. So now I click save and I can see that that Dunedin pool has been created. So at the moment, you'll see it's currently set up to be available to everyone in the general pool. So the next step in regards to a pool is to assign your assets into that pool. So we come into the asset register, we click on unassigned, and I see the list of currently unassigned vehicles. From here, I select the pool to assign it to. If I want to set any end or start or end dates, I do that in here, and then I click on assign. So that's kind of the first two steps. Create the pool, assign the pool, assign the assets to the pool, and then double check that that vehicle has actually been added to the pool. Yes, it has been. You can see it's in the Dunedin pool. And the last step when you create a new pool is that you need to assign a pool administrator to that pool. So in here, what I'm just doing here is I'm copying the full username of the user that I want to assign as a pool manager to this pool. And that will become apparent when we actually get, into, oh dear, I just clicked on something I shouldn't have. So I'm just going to, scroll through this a little bit more. And yes, here we are under the manage pool administrators. So you'll see I'm copying my username and I'm going to click on add administrator, and then I'm going to copy paste that username in there, select the pool that I'm going to assign that user as a pool officer or pool manager to. Either select pool officer or pool manager in this case. I'm going to select pool manager and then click on assign. And then that is your entire creation of a pool, adding the assets into the pool, and assigning a pool administrator to the pool as well. So next up, we've got another quick poll which says, what sort of pools do you currently use? So how are your vehicles currently grouped? Are they location-based, department, cost centre, team-based, or some other form? So I'll just give you a few seconds to go through and answer that poll. Thank you. Great, that's great to see. The lion's share of you are using those location-based pools. Awesome. Thank you for that. Right. So if we look at the first example of a pool location-based pools, you'll see in this example that we have pools based in Auckland, Christchurch, Hamilton, Taupo, and Wellington. So at the moment, they are all fully open pools. So if we then look at the pools and access groups example, you'll see how we actually start to make those connections. So you can see the Auckland pool can be accessed by the Auckland access group. Just going to mute that participant. So we've got the Christchurch pool able to be booked by the Christchurch access group. You get the idea. Now, as we move along to the Wellington pool, you'll see that that actually doesn't have an access group assigned. So that's fully open to any user who is registered in PoolCar as a driver. They can actually book from that Wellington pool, again, so long as they're legally allowed to drive those vehicles that are in that Wellington pool. So, So now on to access groups. So access groups, so this is really where the magical happens for controlling who can book what. So an access group is basically a gatekeeper. So it controls which users can see and book vehicles in certain pools. So without access groups, everyone would see all pools. And that's not always ideal, especially if you've got exec-only vehicles or field vehicles that should only be used by trained staff. So if we look at the pool example first, so this is when we've got pools and access groups together. So you'll see the Auckland pool can be booked by the Auckland staff only. Christchurch, again, booked by the Christchurch staff only. Same with Hamilton and the operations staff, Taupo and the Taupo staff. And then if we look down to the Wellington group, we'll see that not only can all of those other staff book those Wellington vehicles, so can any of the staff that don't have an access group. So an example for this would be Steve, so he's an Auckland-based staff member, is given access to the Wellington pool automatically when he logs into PoolCar for the first time, and the Auckland group when he selects the Auckland group on the welcome page. Whereas John, a Wellington staff member, is not granted any specialist access groups and may only book out of the general pool vehicles in the Wellington HQ pool. So if we look at how this
Sarah,
actually looks like when it's set up.
Sarah,
yes.
we've just got a question in the chat there. Emma's asking, can you assign access groups in the reverse? For example, everyone can access.
They are done by membership of a particular access group, part of the access group, so no, don't at this stage. So we look at the example and we will go through in the video how to take that new create how to add take the new group into the pool. But this is just the example of how the current is configured. So you'll see we've got pools down the left hand side. So you'll see access to the Auckland only operating zone pool, whereas the Wellington pool is linked with anyone can the vehicles pool. The other way is to actually to individual vehicles. So it's but it does require assigning the extra against the individual vehicles. And if you've got a fleet, probably to be based on pools as opposed to individual vehicles, because that can just be a bit of an admin burden. So while it does give you the most control, it does require a bit of admin work to both set up and upkeep it. So if we look at how that works here, so all of these vehicles are in the general pool. These 3 green vehicles are all fully open. You'll see there's staff, they don't have any link to any access group. You'll see the operations staff can also book that vehicle D, which is an operations vehicle. And then the emergency staff can book, again, all of the general pool vehicles, as well as the emergency vehicle E that's in that pool as well. So just showing you where that is actually configured. So if we look at the asset register here and under the bookings tab, you'll see the available access group. So that's if you want to configure a specific asset against a specific access group. So please be really mindful of setting up either access groups via pools or via individual vehicles. Confusion and dismay can occur if you try and use both pool and vehicle-based access groups. So I guess make a decision, make a business decision, and stick with one of those. So next up, we're going to talk about the differences between automatic and manual assignment. So users are assigned to an access group either explicitly or by rules. So on the explicit example, the user selects the access group on the welcome page upon first login, or via the details via the My Details page on subsequent logins. Or if you want the most control, sysadmins can manage access groups via the driver register. So you've got 2 options there for explicit, either user managed or sysadmin managed. And sorry, obviously, if you've got your pool managers also able to view the driver register, then that will they will also be able to manage the access group access via their driver register too. So for rules, this is based on a particular field on the welcome page meeting certain criteria. And then when the user is automatically assigned to the access group. So an example of this is creating a rule to assign users to the group trucks if a user license equals heavy rigid. So that's just an example. We will go through another example shortly. So the most advanced way to assign users to groups is setting up some rule-based triggers. So these are the access group rules. So once the access group names have been configured, the rule can be enabled to automatically add a user into the access group. So I've got a little video here on that whole process. So firstly, we're going to go to the access group names, and we are going to just create a new access group name. So this is really easy. Type Dunedin in and click on add. So that's really easy. That's how you add a new access group. So that's kind of the first step. The next step is to obviously double check you've added it right. Next step is to go back into the sysadmin menu and under access group rules. Now here we're actually going to go and add a new rule. So click on add a new rule and you'll see the access group rules page. So this is where you can actually choose which welcome page field you're going to allocate that rule against. So there is an option for email address, cost center, home campus, or license type. So any of those fields on the welcome page you can use. I'm just going to pause my video just a smidge just to explain kind of how those actually work in a bit more detail. So for example, if you use cost centers, that's probably the recommended one because generally if you use driver-based cost centers, each driver is going to have their own kind of cost center, which is relevant to often their location/department, and then that is going to be able to be easily linked into a particular access group. So the way that the cost center works is that you can either look at the beginning, the cost center, the end of the cost center, or any place within that cost center containing certain fields. And I don't know why that happened again. Sorry. Just going to extend that along a bit. Sorry, we'll just go a little bit further. So sorry, here we are back into access group rules. So yes, so basically any sort of entry of a cost center on the welcome page, if it meets the conditions of that access group rule, it will automatically add those particular users into that access group. So it is, yeah, very straightforward to set up, but you do just need to follow the prescribed process and making sure that you are, in fact, setting it up because, you know, look, complaints will be forthcoming if you don't follow the correct process and people are expecting to see certain vehicles and they can't see certain vehicles because, you know, because this hasn't been configured correctly. So you'll see there I've gone in and I've added my new access group rule. This one is based on the home campus being set to Dunedin. Now the last step, well actually not quite the last step, one of the second steps is to actually go and assign the access group to that particular pool. So you'll see I've gone back into the pool and I've allocated the Dunedin access group to the Dunedin pool. So now you can see in that pools page that the Dunedin pool is now linked to the Dunedin access group. So the final check that actually happens in this case is that you need to go and activate access groups. So this is managed in the application settings under access rights, and you can see that page there. So here you determine whether the access groups are set up via explicit or by rules. You'll see that second section down that says explicit assignment. If that's set to no, it needs to be managed by you as a sysadmin on the driver register. If it's set to yes, then it will be visible for the user to use when they log in to PoolCar for the first time, or obviously subsequent logins. And then the final step is to, right at the top of this page, you'll see access groups enabled. Make sure you click on yes, scroll down, save the page, and your access groups will be live. Right.
Sarah, we have a couple more questions in the chat here.
Yes, please.
Do you want to launch into some of those? So going back a bit, we had Calvin ask, how do we stop users adding themselves to other access groups, speaking from an SSO user base?
Yes, so in that case, I would recommend that your access groups are not set to explicit managed by the users themselves, that you actually turn off the explicit assignment and you manage it yourself via the driver register. And that's how, yeah, unfortunately, you can't fix people. So it's people will do whatever they can to be difficult sometimes, and that is one of the things. So that's why we actually have the option when you do have the explicit access groups enabled, that you can, if your staff are selecting ones that they shouldn't be, just basically remove access and they won't be able to do it. And you will then, again, you would need to manage that going forward via the driver register.
Jessica has asked, is there somewhere I can download a list of the access groups and those vehicles that are assigned to each access group?
Yes, absolutely. In the, and so you have your access groups assigned individually, is that right?
Seeing if you're there, Jessica. Unmute.
Oh, sorry, Jessica, I was just wondering, so I assume if you're asking for a list of all of the access groups and the vehicles that are assigned, you have your vehicles assigned individually to access groups, is that right? Because if they're obviously in a pool, right, okay. No, unfortunately, that's not quite as easy as that. You'd need to raise a ticket in the service desk, and the devs would need to find that out for you. That's probably something that we should look at developing a fix for that. That is, yeah, quite specific. Yeah, so no, unfortunately. Cool, thanks, Jess.
Okay, and Felicity, more questions, Sarah, they're coming at you. Without downloading the driver register, is there a way to see what drivers are under a cost center code?
No, you do need to download the driver register because that's going to be, yeah, because it is based on every single driver, and there's no single page that has that information really clear. So yeah, you'd need to download the driver register.
We have another here from Kelvin. Is there appetite to create a button for users to be removed or unassigned from the access group drivers page rather than needing to go into each driver individually? You kind of talked to that a bit, didn't you?
No, well, again, never say never because we have our own development team, but it very much depends on, if we raise that through VOC, if lots of other customers are asking the same question, there's more likelihood of development. Obviously, we have our professional services offering as well. So if you do want something specific to your organisation, then, you can get in touch with us and talk about doing something as a professional service. So yeah, because obviously we do have a way with just a few clicks to remove someone from an access group, I don't think we would probably create a new kind of toggle sort of button for that. But again, those sorts of questions, by all means, please raise through your CSM if you have one, or through the service desk if you don't. And yeah, we will get those pieces of feedback raised in our VOC program.
Another question here, Jessica asks, can a driver be added to more than one access group at a time?
So explicitly, yes, they can just select more than one access group. So for example, if they live in Hamilton, they might have access to the Hamilton vehicles as well as the Auckland vehicles, maybe. So in that case, absolutely, they would just select more than one. In regards to rules, that's a little bit more difficult. You would just need to make sure that your rule was configured against more than one access group per, well, not necessarily per driver. It just depends. Sorry, I read something else at the same time and that put me off. Hang on, what was the question again? Sorry.
Can a driver be added to more than one access group at a time?
Thank you, Rachel. So yes, they can. Obviously, explicitly, that's just a matter of selecting more than one or putting a tick in more than one of the access groups that are allocated to that driver. And by rules, you would just need to create a rule for each kind of whatever field we're talking about, for each field to add them into that particular access group that you want to add them into. So again, if they need to be in more than one access group, you would just need to make sure that that rule is going to add them into more than one access group. So yeah, yes, you can be in more than one access group. Can we edit the emails for late return to just pool managers? Evan, you can absolutely edit the emails for late returns to go to just pool managers. That's managed via your sysadmin main menu under the robots tab. And just bearing in mind that we've got the robots under utilities, that's for actually configuring, turning on and off the robots. And then we've got the robot settings under the application settings robots. So that's where you actually change those late return alerts and whether they go to, I think it's sysadmins, pool managers, or contacts listed for the asset. Sorry, yeah. When you delete a driver, does it delete their driver history? No, it doesn't. You can delete the driver. The history remains because that booking was completed. And so, yeah, it will remain against that driver, but obviously they won't be able to make any more bookings. Cool. Thank you so much, guys. I was really nervous about today, so I'm really pleased that you all came along and asked some really great questions. And yeah, thank you. It's been, yeah, great. Hello, everybody. I'm Sarah from SmartTrack. I'm just